horror movies become real life? Nope. I'm playing. I don't do my intros like that, dog. Don't leave. I was just playing around. But look, check out When Horror Movies Become Real Life. Nope, by Casual Geographic. Yo, we're gonna get right to the video though, because I don't want to do a lot of talking, because I'm interested to see how he's gonna do this. And yo, this thumbnail, not even being funny. I thought it was Michael Jackson at first, but I was like, no. No. Let me see, Michael Jackson, because he was in a movie or something, right? Wasn't he was in like Oz or something like that, right? The Wiz. I said the fucking I type. But either way it goes, let's check out the video. Stop.
So I watched Nope, and by far the scariest scene was actually the most realistic. Obviously spoilers ahead, so if you haven't watched it, save this video and then come back when you do. So for me, the most chilling scene in the entire movie was the Gordy scene. Basically, there was a TV show revolving around a family adopting a chimpanzee. Except one day, in front of a live studio audience, Gordy went on a rampage, violently murking 2 actors and severely maiming a young girl. And I do think it was a reference to the 2009 Travis the Chimp attack. Travis was a pet chimpanzee.
I heard of that one.
2 words that have no business being in the same sentence. He was adopted by Sandra and Jerome Harold, and he was basically a celebrity in that community. He was known by everyone, appeared on TV, and he even took pictures with members of the police department, which is actually going to be really important later. Travis would sleep in bed with her and her husband and would even take baths with them. No comment on that. Travis could open doors with keys, he knew how to watch TV, bro could drive, and he would even drink wine with his owners. To the point where Sandra said this, and I don't think anything has ever aged worse. And it's not like Travis didn't have to the point.
What you said, until you've eaten with a chimp and bathed with a chimp, you don't know a chimp, she said. Yeah, that's what's up. I mean, no, that's what's up though. Shit, I mean, no, but I haven't heard of this one. And at first, I thought it was going to be the story where the woman had the pet chimpanzee and she invited her friend over, and I think it attacked her friend or some shit like that. So she called the police. You hear like the conversation on the phone, like as it's happening, but she ended up ripping her friend apart. Yo, anything a part of the ape family is just strong as hell, dog. Like legit, it becomes immeasurable. Like far as the strength go, like man, these things are powerful. Hold up, she kissing the chimp? I thought that was her husband, or is that her husband?
Police department, which is actually going to be really important later. Travis would sleep in bed with her and her husband and would even take baths with them. No comment on that. Travis could open doors with keys, he knew how to watch TV, bro could drive, and he would even drink wine with his owners. To the point where Sandra said this, and I don't think anything has ever aged worse. And it's not like Travis didn't have incidents where people saw what he was capable of. One time he bit someone so hard that it drew blood and they had to go get a rabies shot, but when that person filed a police report, it was never investigated. I wonder why.
Wait, what did that say?
Get a rabies shot, but when that person filed a police report,
and the police later claimed they never received the report.
Investigated. I wonder why. Another time, Travis was in a car when someone threw a bottle at him, causing him to hold up traffic for hours and evade cops as he attempted to get his lick back. But nothing ever happened and nobody did anything because they claimed Travis was only playing. I wonder why. However, after that, Sandra decided to keep Travis inside at all times. And after her husband passed and her mental health declined, so did her ability to care for Travis. So now Travis was stuck inside, overweight from eating nothing but junk food, depressed and never able to socialize with his own kind, and bro was very much maidenless. Oh, and he was on Xanax. Yeah, at that point, Travis was just a landmine with a pulse, and in 2009, it finally exploded.
Damn.
While helping her friend lure Travis back inside, Charlotte Nass held up his Tickle Me Elmo to get his attention. Travis charged and proceeded to horrifically maul her. Travis brutally mutilated.
Wait, that's it.
Travis charged.
Side note: a chimp smiling is almost always a sign of aggression. I had no idea. I mean, don't get me wrong. I wouldn't trust that anyway. Damn, yo, you know how creepy that is to think about, because it's like cheese. Like, look, I'm happy. I'm ready to play and shit, but it's like a lure in or some shit. I don't know if it's to lure you in or if it's just what they do. It's like, yeah, we're just about to attack. I don't know, but that's creepy.
Oh, and he was on Xanax. Yeah, at that point, Travis was just a landmine with a pulse, and in 2009, it finally exploded. While helping her friend lure Travis back inside, Charlotte Nass held up his Tickle Me Elmo to get his attention. Travis charged and proceeded to horrifically maul her. Travis brutally mutilated the woman, even after getting hit in the head with a shovel and stabbed in the back with a butcher knife. Eventually, Travis was put down and Charlotte Nass survived. But her face and hand had literally been torn off. It was so bad that first responders and cops needed therapy after witnessing the carnage. And Nope actually referenced her, as a disfigured child star is seen wearing a veil, the same kind Charlotte would wear after the attack. Not to mention Gordy and Travis died in the exact same way. And in both cases, a wild animal is treated as a commodity and exploited. The result traumatized everyone involved. But at the end of the day, Travis was the biggest victim in all this along with Charlotte Nash. He should have been living his best life in the jungle as a wild animal. Instead, he was drinking wine and taking Xanax as someone's flex. So if you're ever rewatching this movie, keep in mind that he was drinking wine and taking Xanax as someone's flex. So
I don't know if that's the real photo or not, but yeah, because I was thinking the same thing. Like, man, it looked like he just went to waste. Unless he just got older. I don't know.
The jungle as a wild animal. Instead, he was drinking wine and taking Xanax
like
as someone's
pass me that
flex.
remote.
So if you're ever rewatching this movie, keep in mind that this actually happened. Here's
we gotta add, hold up. My mama said, fuck your mom. Stop playing though, for real. Now, get back to the video.
Xanax as someone's flex. So if you're ever rewatching this movie, keep in mind that this actually happened. Here's some more facts about the Travis Chimp incident. Basically stuff I left out in the first video that I figured would be important to know. After the first incident where Travis held up traffic for hours, Connecticut actually ended up passing a law where you couldn't own a primate heavier than 50 pounds. By the time of the attack, he was pushing past 200. But the law didn't apply to Travis because people assumed that the Heralds had him for so long that he was considered not to be a public threat. Sandra Harold was actually warned by an animal control officer that once Travis reached maturity, he'd be more prone to violent and aggressive tendencies, like male chimps in the wild. Especially since he wouldn't have an outlet for certain urges he would get once he became mature. But obviously, Sandra didn't listen. Now, a lot of people blame Sandra for the event, and I'm one of them. But I think it is worth mentioning that in 2000, her only daughter tragically passed in a car accident, causing her to literally see and treat Travis as a child since she had lost her only one.
Damn.
And when her husband died a couple years later, Travis was literally all she had. Not justifying it at all, but, you know, it's complicated. Travis was also visibly depressed at the loss of his adoptive father. After his death, Travis would apparently take pictures of Jerome Harold off the wall and hold them tightly, clearly mourning. According to reports, Travis had been prescribed Xanax by a vet to help him calm down. He was even given Xanax-laced tea the day of the attack. Xanax is often used to help treat anxiety, but it can also cause hallucination, rage, and mania. After horrifically mauling Charlotte Nash, Travis was shot 4 times. Mortally wounded, Travis went back to the house and passed away right next to his cage, which you have to assume was his safe space. On a wholesome note, Charlotte Nash actually ended up undergoing a face transplant and actually seems to be doing a lot better these days. And according to her, she's no longer in pain and doesn't even seem to really remember the attack, just what people tell her about it. And honestly, it's probably better that way.
I agree.
Despite all she's been through, she's still managing to stay positive. Also, after the police officer who put down Travis was denied therapy, laws were passed to make sure cops that had to use lethal force on an animal could receive therapy for mental and emotional recovery. On this episode of Why No Human Should Ever Try to Own a Chimp is a story that, if I'm being honest, kinda messed me up the first time I heard it. Yeah, more than Travis. Former NASCAR driver St. James Davis and his wife LaDonna had a chimp they had adopted from Tanzania named Mo. And before you say it, nah, this story isn't going in the direction you think it is. The couple treated Mo like he was their son, dressing him up, bathing him, and they even taught him how to use the toilet. Mo was even the best man at their wedding. But after an incident in 1998 where Mo attacked and bit an officer, the couple were forced to give up Mo to a wildlife rescue center in California. But they loved him, and this didn't stop them from visiting Mo regularly. One day in 2005, the couple were celebrating Mo's 39th birthday and even brought him his own cake. So, important fact about chimps. Chimpanzee society works as a hierarchy, where low ranks are often bullied and forced to give up food to their superiors who get first servings. That structure is actually why baboons have become a real problem in parts of South Africa. You see that?
And the crazy part is, it like not even being funny. Like, look the way they standing. It look like some niggas standing on the corner. Like, yeah, whole ass nigga. Like, just talking ish. I'm legit not being funny. Just look at that picture and tell me you don't hear shit like, shit. Hey, mommy. Hey, bitch. You don't hear that? You probably don't. Forget it, cause y'all gonna think I'm being funny. And now that I think about it, some of y'all gonna think I'm being racist, but. Fuck you.
9th birthday and even brought him his own cake. So, important fact about chimps. Chimpanzee society works as a hierarchy, where low ranks are often bullied and forced to give up food to their superiors who get first servings. That structure is actually why baboons have become a real problem in parts of South Africa.
They do so much human like
You see, they tell you not to feed the baboons because when you do, not only are the baboons associating people with food, which is bad, it also means they start seeing all humans as low ranks and start expecting food,
one of them $20.
which is worse.
Keep
this
coming
would
back.
be important for 2 reasons. Reason number 1, 2 other chimps saw the couple give Mo the birthday cake. Reason number 2, that was a really bad time for those 2 chimps to escape. The 2 chimps violently confronted them and one of them bit off LaDonna's thumb. And to protect his wife, St. James Davis put himself between his wife and the chimps. What followed was, without exaggeration,
it legit sound like they rolled through the wrong hood. So some jack boys hit a lick, came up, but the snake saw. So they like, oh shit, we saw he came up. So now we gon' hate on them and rob them. Am I tripping? What the fuck?
Davis put himself between his wife and the chimps. What followed was, without exaggeration, one of the most horrifically brutal attacks I've ever read about.
Damn.
The two chimps mauled and mutilated the man, and if you read about exactly how they did it, it didn't seem like the chimps were trying to end him. It seemed like they were actively trying to torture him. One chimp chewed his finger off while another gouged his eye out. In what seems like a common chimp move, they essentially tore most of his face off. They even went as far as to chew off his genitals and a good chunk of his rear end.
Damn.
Which is another thing chimps are infamous for. They basically did everything but murk him. Keep in mind, this was all over a birthday cake. And at this point, you might be wondering where Mo was when this was all going down. As a chimp that grew up around nothing but humans, the event terrified him so much that he appeared paralyzed. Eventually, a couple workers put the chimps down, but by the time they did, the damage was already done. Former high school football player and NASCAR driver James Davis had pretty much been torn to shreds. He nearly bled out 3 times on the way to the hospital, and the first 2 places wouldn't even take him. Someone even said they might as well just drop him at the coroner's office. Eventually, he was taken to a trauma center where he'd go on to have about 12 surgeries and would even be medically induced into a coma. Against virtually every force of nature, Davis survived and was discharged 6 months later. The moral of the story is still the same. Davis had spent nearly 30 years of his life living with a chimp, and all it took was bad luck and a birthday cake to nearly flatline him. It just goes to show, chimps are really good at being wild animals, but really bad at being pets. So I watched Nope, and without spoiling too much, it reminded me of something that actually happened. And I'm just gonna put that right there.
I might gotta watch this movie, dog. I'm gonna let this ad play real quick. Yo, I might gotta watch this freaking Nope, though. Only reason, oh wait, the video back on, hold up. Only reason why I haven't watched it yet, because I've been hearing a lot of up and down about it, and a lot of people have been saying it's basically hella alien-ish, but like hard to understand-ish. And movies that are hard to understand are that's never something that'll stray me away from a movie, because if so, I wouldn't watch none of Stephen King shit. But I don't know, I feel like it'll be good if I just sit and watch it. Yo, real quick, just to talk some horror, thriller, scary movie-ish real quick. Yo, I ain't gonna lie. I get a little upset when people say they didn't like Hereditary, because I feel like you did not pay attention at all, because the movie, I'm not gonna spoil it, it was so damn good, but it was legit one of those movies. Maybe I feel like, because I legit went into that movie ready to pay attention, because I could not wait to watch it. But it is one of those really long, drug-out movies at one point, but you have to pay attention to it. And if you do, it makes the end of the movie so freaking amazing. But hey, maybe it's just me. Maybe it's actually, I don't know, a bad movie. Because I feel like that's one of the movies I always say I like. And so many people are like, no, that shit was horrible. I'm like, damn. My bad, let me put the horror fanatic up. Get back to the video.
Really bad at being pets. So I watched Nope, and without spoiling too much, it reminded me of something that actually happened. And I'm just gonna put that right there. This is Timothy Treadwell. If that name sounds familiar, then you know what time it is. I think it's important to mention he wasn't like a zoologist or an educator or something. He was a dude that auditioned for Cheers and then lost out to Woody Harrelson. That caused him to spiral down the path of things I cannot talk about on here. Let's just say he had his demons and his demons had hands. But he turned his life around after going on a trip to Alaska with a buddy and observing bears up close. He decided right then and there that he'd dedicate his entire life to bears. Yeah. For over a decade, he watched, studied, recorded, and even directly interacted with bears. He would get extremely close to them and would sometimes even play with bear cubs. Because
Did he make that movie, or I think it was a movie called Bear or Bears? It's a documentary. My brother had it on VHS. It was just this bear being followed around like a documentary. I don't even remember if it was talking or not. It was legit. I'm gonna have to look this up at the end. If it's, oh, that's gonna be trippy. If so, my bad.
Bears. He would get extremely close to them and would sometimes even play with bear cubs. Because he claimed that he had their trust. And if you watch Nope, you know exactly where this is finna go. Now, I will say Treadwell did try to make an impact by traveling all over as an activist, trying to educate the public about bears and why they should be protected. But he also threatened their lives by getting way too close. And as time went on, he started getting cocky, which led him to do the unthinkable. So a little fun fact about bears, before they hibernate, they have to eat and put on as much weight as possible. The competition for food makes them
that is scary, though. I'm not gonna lie. Imagine just being in front of that. Whoa, boy, dude. I'd have passed out.
He started getting cocky, which led him to do the unthinkable. So a little fun fact about bears, before they hibernate, they have to eat and put on as much weight as possible. The competition for food makes them 1,000 times more aggressive and infinitely more of a death sentence to be around.
Damn.
Against literally everyone's warning, he chose this time to go camping around them. Not only that, but he purposely set up his camp around a known bear trail so that bears would walk right past his tent. Not only that, but he refused to carry bear spray because the Steve Irwin stereotype figured the bears trusted him so much that he never needed. And not only that, he brought his girlfriend with him. So pretty much he chose the worst place at a worst time with no way to defend himself. You know where it goes from here. On October 5th, 2003, Treadwell spoke to a friend about how much fun he was having. On October 6th, rangers found his and his girlfriend's half-eaten corpses around their campsite. But the most disturbing part? A video camera was actually left on as the grizzly attacked them. Another cute little fact about bears, they don't wait until you flatline, they just start eating. Which meant there was a 6-minute audio recorded of him screaming in agony as he was getting mauled and eaten alive while his girlfriend could only watch. And since she was also screaming, the bear eventually went after her too. The audio was so graphic and traumatizing that it was never released to the public. You can find reenactments based on what happened on YouTube, but the original was vaulted out of respect for the family. Also, the bear that was only guilty of being a bear was tracked down and put out of commission. Obviously, soul eviction by bear is the worst way to meet God, and nobody deserves that. But bro literally asked for it, and it all could have been avoided with one word. Nope. Yeah, shout out to this comment, because I honestly don't know how I didn't talk about them already. So Siegfried and Roy were two German... Shout out to this comment, because
I think it was also a reference to Siegfried and Roy Incident as well. I gotta watch this movie.
Honestly don't know how I didn't talk about them already. So Siegfried and Roy were two German entertainers who blew up from their magic act. They were basically the magic what the Beatles were to rock. And their act often involved exotic animals, but especially big cats like tigers. You probably know how this movie ends.
I know this one.
For years, the two became world famous for their performances, and especially for the ways that incorporate the wild animals. And you'd get the sense that they genuinely cared for all of their animals. Especially Roy, who had been around wild exotic animals since he was 10. And it was during a show on Roy's birthday that he performed his usual act with Manticore, a 400-pound white tiger. But this time, the tiger wasn't cooperating and was instead biting Roy's sleeve while ignoring his commands. And it was while animal trainers attempted to get Manticore under control that it finally happened. In front of a horrified audience, Manticore severely mauled the leading co-star, clamping his jaws around his neck and eventually dragging him off stage. It took animal trainers spraying him with a fire extinguisher to get the tiger to release his death threat. Roy would survive, but the attack severed his spine, cut an artery, partially paralyzed him, and even caused a stroke, virtually cutting both men's careers short. Roy refused to blame his tiger for the attack, famously telling trainers not to hurt Manticore as he was being wheeled to the hospital for life-saving surgery. Surgery that he allegedly flatlined multiple times during. Later, Roy claimed that the attack was actually the tiger trying to save his life. Roy said he was already suffering a stroke, and Manticore sensed it and attempted to drag him to safety, the same way a mother would do to her cub. However, the animal trainer that actually worked with them had a very different story. Trainer Chris Lawrence would come out and say that the real reason for the attack was that Roy's relationship with the huge cat had deteriorated. And when Roy started going off script and doing things they hadn't practiced, that's when the tiger went, "You thought I was gonna say crazy?" Nah, the tiger tigered. The trainer would also say that Roy had made several crucial mistakes handling Manticore and lied about what happened to protect the show, their brand, and himself. Roy basically called him a clout chaser. And I want to add, just for the record, there was literally nothing protecting the audience from the tigers. I mean, yeah, they were on a leash, but we're talking about an animal that solos that for a living. Your leash means nothing. But I guess after several years of performing, Roy and Siegfried figured they had complete control over the big cats. No spoilers, but major nope vibes. But yeah, long story short, wild animal went wild animal. But why am I bringing this up? Well, a couple reasons. The largest population of tigers in the world is in India. You want to take a guess where number 2 is? Texas. In fact, this was in Houston.
For real?
There are more tigers in America than found in the wild in the rest of the world. You remember that weird phase when people would use tiger selfies as Tinder profiles? I genuinely hope none of you got laid. And if you had Netflix during the pandemic, you already know about Joe Exotic. My point is, people have had a hard-on for exploiting tigers for as long as we've known about them. And fans aren't going to want to hear this.
And you know what's funny? Because I said it. If I could 100% guarantee, like, yo, this big cat will be tamed, then I would hella have one. Because you'll have, and so many people have them. Who had it? Like, speaking of, did Michael Jackson have one? I think. Freaking Mike Tyson. Hella celebrities get on, whatever. But I know I can never 100% have one tamed, so it's always been a hell no. But I've always said that, like, yo, I just love them. They're freaking beautiful as hell. I cannot cap, man.
I genuinely hope none of you got laid. And if you had Netflix during the pandemic, you already know about Joe Exotic. My point is, people have had a hard-on for exploiting tigers for as long as we've known about them. And fans aren't going to want to hear this, but this was just another example of that. I will give them credit for 2 things, though. This might be the first story like this where the animal wasn't eventually unalived for being an animal. And number 2, it really did feel like they genuinely cared for their animals. I say that because if a 400-pound killing machine really wanted Roy to be a hashtag, his chalk outline would have been on that very stage. But when you take a wild animal and turn it into a side act, it's only a matter of time, because one thing about a tiger gone tiger. And ultimately, all the attack was a tiger tigering. And just like that, I think I just gave you the entire plot of Nope without actually spoiling it. Moral of this story? Well, there's actually 2. Putting a leash on a tiger is like putting a traffic cone in front of a runway 18-wheeler and telling kids it's safe to cross. And if you really love a tiger, the
For
best
real,
thing
I
you
ain't
can
like that little leash is that little leash is not gonna do shit.
runway 18-wheeler and telling kids it's safe to cross. And if you really love a tiger, the best thing you can do for it is let it be a tiger. At this point, we're all very much familiar with the Travis Chimp attack of '09. But there's a whole nother part of the story that way less people know about. Chimp Party used to be a business that was run by two people in Missouri. The business being renting out chimpanzees for parties, TV ads, movies, stuff like that. Yeah, at this point, I don't think I even have to say it. Take a shot for every bad decision you've heard in this video. If you're still alive by the end, you just weren't paying attention. Anyway, in 2001, 3 chimpanzees escaped from Chimp Party and wandered down the road. And by escaped, I mean they walked through an unlocked door. The chimps eventually ran into an 18-year-old Jason Coates and a couple of his friends.
No, they didn't get
Chimp
out.
activity followed. The 3 chimps charged at the teens who were chased into their car. And it was at this point where one of the chimps named Susie noticed Jason's dog and went after him. Jason did what any respectable dog father would do. Jason managed to escape into his house while his friends and dog were still in danger and returned with a shotgun. Now what happened next depends on who you ask. Some say Jason put down Susie after she had already been tranquilized and was no longer a threat. Jason said his friends and dog were still being attacked when he ultimately pulled the trigger. The price of defending his loved ones was that Jason was charged with misdemeanor animal abuse and the 18-year-old even served 30 days in jail. He was even hit with felony destruction of private property. The private property being the chimp that threatened his life. And while serving his time, Jason actually ended up missing the birth of his first child. Chimp Party, which later became the Missouri Chimp Foundation, ended up being forced to give away their chimps in 2020 and 2021 after PETA claimed the apes were being held in poor, unsanitary conditions. You know, it takes a lot for me to side with PETA. I'd say this was a lot. But why am I telling you this story from 20 years ago? Well, Susie, the chimp that got gunned down, yeah, that was Travis's mother. Travis had already been sold by the breeders and was living with the Heralds when it all went down.
What?
And 8 years later, Travis would meet his end the exact same way as his mother. Only this time, it wasn't before someone got seriously hurt. Moral of this story?
No fucking way that just connected like that. My bad, I'll overreact on your ass. But I was not expecting that. Yo, that connected.
This was a lot. But why am I telling you this story from 20 years ago? Well, Susie, the chimp that got gunned down, yeah, that was Travis's mother. Travis had already been sold by the breeders and was living with the Heralds when it all went down. And 8 years later, Travis would meet his end the exact same way as his mother. Only this time, it wasn't before someone got seriously hurt. Moral of this story? It takes a special type of people to make PETA the good guy.
Damn, there was legit something I wanted to talk about, but I don't remember because that ending legit just like twisted my brain. But yo, either way, I'm gonna go ahead and get up out of here and enjoy my night. You go ahead and do the same thing. Enjoy your day, morning, evening, night, whenever you're watching this video. But I'm out.